My dude, what's up? I can't hear you. What happened? There we
What
go.
is up? Can you hear me now? Hold
I can
on.
hear you now. There we go. Matt, what's up, man? How are you?
What is up, Professor? It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Man, I have to say, Matt, last Saturday, uh, we traded services, right? Like you
We
helped
did.
me with some sales and website stuff, and I did a private lesson with you in jiu-jitsu.
We
And
did.
I can't remember the last time that I did a one-on-one private lesson with somebody where I was like the uki as well, where they were demonstrating on me. But what I will say is this, Matt, your information to me on what you showed me, it was so good. I didn't mind. I didn't mind doing the private lesson, and I hate private lessons, bro.
It's just like my marriage. Like I always said, it's like a good marriage. Each person feels like they're getting the better deal, right? Like I
Okay,
felt
good.
like I was getting the better deal. And you're like, man, this was good. So that's a good relationship.
But I don't know about you. Maybe you like to do what you did with me. I fucking hate to teach a one-on-one private lesson. If somebody wanted a one-on-one private lesson with me, I would charge them probably $2,500 an hour. They'd
Yeah,
have to pay for a set of 10 upfront, and we would have to get them done inside 2 weeks.
I agree. I mean, I do love what I do with you, but I'll be honest. I give it everything, and it's meant where somebody trying to choke you out for an hour is physically just exhausting for you. It's mentally exhausting for me. That's why, like tonight, when I come and train at your 5 o'clock, being a coach, normally I love nothing more than just sitting down and listening and saying, yes, sir, no, sir. Cause those privates wear you out, man. Like coaching
Oh,
in general is very, very, very exhausting.
it's very exhausting. Yes. It's exhausting when it's just words, right? But
Yeah,
it's more exhausting when it's words and physical from my experience.
I, I,
So
I can imagine.
So let's get into you a little bit. So you are in sales, you do right, and
Mhm.
man, just tell me how you got here. Like, where did you grow up? Let's just start with your childhood, right? Like,
Yeah.
let everyone get a little background with you. What was your life like as a young boy, a young man, and then where did you learn to do what you did?
Yeah, so I'm the founder. A lot of people don't, a lot of people are starting to find me now. I'm the founder of Easton University, which is the most effective sales training in the world, just because we do things a little bit differently than a lot of that traditional sales training out there. There's a lot of misinformation. Some of it's complete garbage, but everything that I teach comes from really what you were just saying, my childhood and a moment when I was 8 years old. So actually I was if we had to be technical, I think I was 7, coming near 8 years old. It was 1980 was the year. And one of the things that I took from you,
That's a great year.
it was a great year.
That's when I was born. Go ahead.
When you're born, perfect. And a funny thing is I made a video about this. I made a TikTok about this a long time ago. One time after class, you gave a speech, and I stole your idea, by the way, because it moved me. You had said, things don't happen to you, they happen
For
for
you.
you. Correct. And I didn't see that in 1980, but to give you some background, my father, who's a wonderful person, technically is my stepfather. Okay, I won't get into real dad stuff. Wasn't pretty, but no big deal, right? I'm not a victim there. But in 1980, I was it was just different than it is for kids today. So I was part of a thing called the government hot lunch program, which meant I had this cardboard piece of paper. I'd bring that to school. That's where I ate. Okay, was school. And with the hot lunch program, sometimes they let you take some stuff home. It was that destitute. My mother, she worked at a synagogue, same thing as a church. She was their administrator. She made $6,000 a year. So she was raising 2 boys. That's $500 a month. Even in 1980 money, that's no money at all. So rough times for me. And I remember, and it's funny, I still have this on my desk. This was the toy that I was playing with on that day in 1980. It was a late summer day. School was getting ready to start. I was sitting out in front of my house playing with this toy, 1979 Matchbox Porsche Turbo, and thinking how bad my life was. I remember Miami Vice was on TV at that time, and I heard this noise. And I was whoa. And I looked up and it was like, whatever you guys believe in, the force, God, Allah, it was that. This exact car, which is why I had saved this, came driving down the street by where I live. And I was like, oh my goodness, right? And like any 8-year-old unsupervised home alone with a key around his neck to get back in the house, I ran after the car, right? I was like, I got to see who's driving this car. It's got to be either Crockett or Tubbs, right? Because this is Miami Vice time. So I followed the car and I had a good indicator of where it was going because there's this guy, John Carroll. He was an attorney. He was the only person around me that had any sort of semblance of wealth. And I was like, John Carroll bought a Porsche. Okay. And that's where the car was parked in front of Mr. Carroll's house. And I sat there and I waited. And I was like, he's going to come out. I'm going to ask him to start this car up and it's going to be great. Well, he didn't come out of the house. This gentleman came out wearing a suit. I still to this day don't know who the guy's name was. And I said, sir, because I was always polite, man. And that's one thing I try and teach these kids at jiu-jitsu. Like if you just go through life and say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Women sometimes get mad at that one, but just go with it anyways. Yes, coach, no, coach. Good things will happen to you. I said, sir, if you don't mind me asking, is that your car? And he's like, yeah, little buddy, sure is. And I said, wow, what do you do for a living to have a car like that? And he says, well, I sell stuff. I said, what do you sell? And I thought, it's got to be something, right? Gold bars, drugs. I don't freaking know. He's got a Porsche, right? And he's like, I sell computers. And I said to him, I said, man,
computer.
Yeah. And these are computers. I said, man, that must be a great computer. And he said to me, he goes, little buddy, I sell the worst computer on planet Earth. I was like, what? And I thought he was joking. He goes, I work for a company called Texas Instruments. I sell what's called the TI 99-4. It's $1,500. And I'm the only person in the world that can sell it. It's that bad. And I was like, well, do you feel bad selling a bad computer? He says, absolutely not. I said, well, how did you sell it? He goes, well, what I do differently than everybody else is I'm not interested in being pushy. I'm not a high pressure. I'm not like a car salesman. I just figured out what the TI 99-4 does really well. And I find people with certain things going on in their life where that computer can help them. For example, doctors and lawyers. And I said, well, what is it about doctors and lawyers? He said, well, this computer, it's a piece of junk. It's $1,500, which I don't know, in today's money, it'd be like, oh, $5,000 or something. And he goes, but it does calendar entries really well. And I know that attorneys, for example, like Mr. Carroll here, they want to get home earlier and I can save them a couple hours. If they just have my computer at home, they can do that. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but Mr. Carroll has a thing called Parkinson's disease. Everybody in the neighborhood knew that because he would, twitch. He had the Parkinson's. And he said, Mr. Carroll really needs to take his medication as early as possible, but he cannot drive his car if he has his medication. And that was the medication they had in 1979. He was not legally allowed to drive after he had it. And he said, so all I did was understand that in his life, he wants to have a normal life, kid, and he wants to come home. So he does all his legal stuff at the office. I just sold him this computer. He's going to enter his take his medication. He can enter his calendar stuff. Everything's great. And I was like, man, that is awesome. You're actually helping him and you're making money. I said, I want to do that. And he said, yeah, you can do it. And I said, no, I can't. Right. And he's like, why not? And I said, well, I'm broke. He goes, doesn't matter. I said, I can't spell very well and I can't read. I had an undiagnosed, it wasn't dyslexia. It was a muscular problem in my eye. I was all kinds of bad shape. Right. And I can't even spell. And he went into his car. I still remember this. It's like the cool stuff. I'm trying to pay it forward now with he opened up the front because the engine was in the back. And he pulled out a freaking Speak and Spell, which in 1980 was the hot toy for kids to have. It was $50. And I was like, this is great. My older brother's going to beat me up. Take it, but it's really awesome. Thank you. He's like, here's a second one. And I was like, whoa. And I went home with 2 Speak and Spells. So one, my brother was like, yeah, you finally did something cool. My mom was like, you stole this, right? I had to explain to her, no, I swear I didn't steal it, right? She's all good. But at that moment, my life changed because I was like, wait a minute, there's a way. You don't have to have resources. You don't have to have money. All you have to do is understand what somebody needs and to be able to skillfully communicate and effectively. So I started putting all these deals together around the neighborhood. Like Elliot is you play football, right? And your dad loves football. You've got extra pads laying around, extra helmet laying around. You don't like football that much, right? What you really want is a skateboard. But Chris has 2 skateboards and really wants a football helmet, right? So I started getting the kids to swap all this stuff. And I kind of became like a child prodigy in sales. Like I was just the deal maker around the neighborhood, to where in 1988, I was 16 years old. I started Quality Publishing, which some people might have even had experience with this. It was the government auction guides that you would buy out of the back of like Playboy or Car and Driver, where you'd pay $20, you get this guide, and it tell you where all, I just went and found where all the government auction sites were, typed them all up, made a guide, and I would go to Pitt Printing and print these things out. And I would go to newsstands all over Colorado and be like, man, you guys are only making like 50 cents when you sell a magazine. These are $20. I'll sell them to you for $7. If nobody buys them, I'll come and collect them. And it was a good little business. And I leveraged that business into other businesses. There's one called Astonishing Advancements. When raves were happening in 1992, I started a company called Rave Syndicate. Just thought I'd come up with a good name. Had never thrown a rave before. We threw some raves. I went to all the record stores and we're like, you guys should sell tickets to parties, because record stores were dying in 1992. Just started figuring out how I could help people get what they want. Started a t-shirt company.
Did you go to college, Matt?
I did, yeah.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Fort Lewis in Durango, Colorado for 2 years. That's where Rave Syndicate was based out of. And then I ended up taking a year off. I sold cars in Austin, Texas, hated it. Then I went to CSU, and that's when I started my Pendulum Sportswear and Design, which was a sportswear company, and graduated from CSU. But
so you've always had this like entrepreneurial mindset, right? Like
100%.
Sounds like just from the beginning, right? Like that day and time, like changed your life.
Yep. How can I help somebody? How can I help myself in the process? And then I graduated from, it took me like 6 years to graduate because I was doing these businesses and moving around. And then I screwed it all up in 1998, because I always thought, being a poor kid growing up, that you have to have a good job. And I didn't realize that these businesses I was starting were all really good jobs. And so I left this company, ADP, which is payroll company, aggressively recruited me. And I sold the t-shirt company. I went to work for ADP. It worked out well. I was the rookie of the year, #1 salesperson every year, but I never made as much money as I thought I could make. And I started going through their sales process and their training. And I swear it was like I had jujitsu this whole time. And they're like showing me some stuff. And I'm looking at it going, this is really complicated. This doesn't make any sense. But being a yes sir, no sir type person, I followed their processes. And I went through, when I was in the corporate world, I went through company after company. I was always #1. I never could make the amount of money I wanted to make. And I was like, this is so difficult. So I left. I did a side hustle in 2010 and started a marketing company. I was like, I'll just do this on the side. And it made a lot of money in the first year. And I was like, I'm on to something. Sold that company. And then I started just being like, I'm just going to teach people my sales process. And I started one for apartments and real estate, and now Easton University. But that's what I'm doing, is there is some things from ADP and the American Customer Satisfaction Index and all the places I work. But now I'm just teaching people the kind of, like when we had our meeting, that flow of jujitsu, right? Like it's not moves. There's no tricks. There's no gimmicks. It's a flow, right? You
listen to what the person's trying to do to you.
Yeah.
And then I respond when I'm doing jujitsu.
Correct. And the weird thing, like in all my years and all the training, I mean, I think these companies probably spend 200 grand total between all of them training me. Like ADP, it was $30,000 in 3 weeks of boot camp that they sent me to. And I'll be honest, Professor, most of it was complete garbage. Like this is Heather, my wife, and I talk about this all the time because I need to get a life. My life is her, my kids, my work, jujitsu, and cars. So that's all I've got. That's all. I don't have any friends.
You have some fly cars, bro. I'll give it to you.
I'm not going to pay for the therapy, but I think it came from that. Here's the weird thing. I try to pay it forward with the car. So whenever there's a kid that's like, wow, I'm like, man, you want to sit in it? And then I talk to him like Waylon, whatever.
Yeah.
Last night, I pulled him aside after class because he always, that old Porsche I have, he's always like, will you give me your Porsche? Will you give me your Porsche? And I said, Waylon, I'm going to tell you how to get the Porsche right now. I'm going to also tell you, you're not going to listen to me, right? You're not going to do it. But I'm going to give you the cheat code right now. He's like, all right, what is it? And I said, Waylon, just go starting right now. Because you pointed him out in class. And I said, starting right now, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, coach. No, coach. It is so stupid easy. But when you go through life, may I please? No, thank you. Right? All of a sudden, like the universe, doors start opening and he doesn't even know where those doors are, but somebody will hear him in the background be like, yes, sir. No, sir. Right. And they'll be like, who was that really polite young man? Right. You know what? Let's have him do this internship for us. Like just being a good person and being polite. Like,
so that's your rule number one. So when you talk about like for someone who's like, man, I'm stuck, I'm blah, blah, blah. Your rule number one is to handle your words and be polite.
Handle your words, be a good person. I'm a big believer in like writing goals down every day. Like I write my goals down every day as if they've already happened. But then there are other people that write their goals down every day. I also write little check marks of the thing. Like one of my goals is I want 1 million followers on TikTok. Well, then I also have boxes on my sheet, right? That are like, I have to post 4 videos. So not only do I map out what do I want my life to look like in real detail, right? And then what, like for years, and I've got stacks of them, boxes and boxes, I wrote down, I am a jujitsu black belt, right? And whether I had neck surgery, and I am not the most skillful person in that room, right? I am not the most athletic person in that room, but it doesn't fucking matter, right? I wrote that down every day and I showed up.
Why did it matter so much to you, Matt? Right? Because like you said, right? Like, look, you and I are close enough, I think, to the point where, and you just said it, you're not the best, right? Like these young 20, you're almost 50 years old. These young 20-year-old blue belts come in, like they're probably going to be beating you right here soon because, but for some reason you keep coming back, you keep staying. What is this role that jiu-jitsu plays in this like life that Matt has?
I think not only is it a metaphor for life, because everything in jiu-jitsu is life, life is jiu-jitsu. Like you're so concerned in life, like, oh my God, if I start my own business, it's going to fail and I'm going to be embarrassment to everybody. And if I talk to this girl, she's going to shut me down. And like, I went through all of that pain as everybody does in my life. And I realized it doesn't matter. Like the people that don't quit and get through, I don't know if one stripe white belts understand this, but probably most everybody that gets to blue belt, if they thought about it, start to realize it doesn't matter, dude. So what? I screwed up in class. You're not watching them. You don't see that stuff.
Everyone thinks I am though, right? Everyone's like, oh, Elliot's over there watching me. He's going to give me my blue belt today. If I beat this person, man, I don't even pay attention.
And nor does life, right? Nor does life.
Right.
You ask that girl out, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, they don't care. They're not paying attention, right? So just do it, right? It's never. And the other thing about jiu-jitsu that I love is, at least for me personally, it's the one, and I think because there's an aspect of physical danger in it, it's the one thing where I cannot think about all of my other problems. So it's cheap therapy for me, because if I'm thinking about this client that we need to gain, or this argument that I had in my personal life, I'm going to get hurt, right? I need to pay attention to what's going on, or I'm primarily responsible for my safety. So if I'm not paying attention and I don't tap, right, and my arm gets hurt, that's on me. So for an hour, I don't have to think about it. But jiu-jitsu is just, it sucks. It's painful. It's hard. And it's so, at least for me, it's so rewarding. Because it's something that I'm not supposed, there's no, like I spent my whole beginning, I wish I got into martial arts as a kid, but I kind of don't, because I don't know if I'd ended up, like my whole thing, I was really bullied a lot as a kid because I didn't have any money. I was tall early and I was really skinny. I mean, really skinny, like less than 100 pounds skinny. And like, so I learned I had to be funny and quick-witted. Like I still remember 7th grade, there was this kid that used to beat me, he duct taped my head. Like we didn't have anti-bullying. Like you just, and I come home, my mom would be like, what did you do? Like, you better swing back. Like my mom's from South Boston. She's like,
Right.
I'm back, that was it. I remember one time I rolled down on the floor, and back then they'd be like, fight. And all the kids would gather around. So the whole school was there. The whole junior high school is there. And this kid's getting ready to wail on me. I just fell on the floor. I won't say his last name. If you're listening, come train. I want to train with you. But his name was Will. I thought he was so tough. And I was like, Will, if you don't mind, before we start this ass kicking, I would like to do the Shandling maneuver. And I just fell down on the floor and I got in a ball. And he was like, what the fuck is this Shandling maneuver? Sorry to cuss. He's like, what the heck is the Shandling maneuver? And I said, well, I'm just going to lay here in a ball, Will, and you just go ahead and kick me till your foot gets tired. And there was this moment, because there was a crowd around where he didn't know what to do, right? And he kind of laughed, and then everybody else laughed in the whole school. And he actually helped me up, and he's like, dude, you're pretty cool, And it was like, that was like, I had to fight with my wits, I had to fight with just being funny. I had to fight, but I also had to fight being self-deprecating. And I wish I could have let that go, that self-deprecation part of it, like, and so now jujitsu is really healed me on all of that stuff, right? You think jujitsu makes you a jerk, like I know how to fight. It actually doesn't. Now I'm calm and cool and collected and can like get through any discussion because I feel relatively safe, you know? And I don't, at the same time too, I don't have to be a jerk. I don't have to be like Will was. I don't have to be a jerk, right? I can be skillful. I can be effective. I can treat other people with dignity and respect, and myself with dignity and respect, and we can both get what we want. But I don't know. Jiu-jitsu has really helped me get to that better place in my life.
Take me through a little more of like, getting specifics, because I know like, you like to relate like jiu-jitsu and sales sometimes, right? It's played this big of a role in your life. Actually, before you answer that question, I want to step back one question. When you were getting your black belt a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, you talked about that you drove to the academy 3 times and then left without walking in the door. Tell me what that was all about, right? And what overcoming that fear was like for you.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, my whole jiu-jitsu. So my wife is a model by profession, and she worked for Burton Snow. And I grew up, I was sponsored for snow. I was one of the first people to be sponsored for snowboarding when I was in high school. That was my big thing with snowboarding. By the way, it's not as glamorous as you would think. Snowboarding in the 80s was like not cool. Like I didn't not get a date with a girl because I was sponsored for, not like it is today. And you didn't get any money or anything. I just got a free snowboard, and I was happy with that. But my wife, this was 2007, if I had to guess. She was working for Burton Snowboard. She was a runway model for them, and a bunch of pros had come out. We all went to dinner. Jake Burton was there. He's now passed away. Great guy. But one of the snowboarders was like, dude, because that's how they talked. He's like, dude, I got to get back to the hotel because tap out's coming on. And I was like, what is this tap out? And he's like, those douchey guys with the stickers on their cars? And because I'd seen the stickers, this was when everybody had tap out stickers. And I was like, yeah, what is that? I don't know what that is. He's like, you have to see this show. It is so badass. It's about fighting. And I was like, I don't watch that UFC stuff. Yeah, I'm just not into that. He's like, no, dude. No, bro. You've got to see this show. There's this guy that wears makeup, and there's this guy with this afro. And I was like, I got to see what this snowboarder wanted to get back to the hotel. And I turned it on. It was on Spike TV, right? I got home, I turned it on too. And I was like, dang, this is pretty cool. Well, Universe, right? Porsche, it just happened to be an episode. And I'm still trying to figure out where this was. But it was an episode with Donald Cerrone, right? And they're like, cowboy. And Mask was all yelling. You might have been in the background of that.
I was in the episode, yeah.
Yeah. So I saw that and I was like, I got hooked on the show, right? Because I really, Mask, who's also dead now, I really kind of identify. I think that guy's a good person. I don't know. I've never met him. I'm sure you have, but he seemed like a decent human being, right? And I was
very good guy.
Yeah. I was like, this guy's got a lot of the same values that I have, right? And I got into the show, but I remember Donald and you were in the whosoever was training, but I lived at Third and Spear, which was right by the favela at Third and Broadway. And I was like, I think, and I don't think it was filmed in there now.
So everyone can understand the favela is what we used to call the old Denver school, because it was really shitty. So in Brazil, the ghetto is called the favela, and we called the Denver school the favela.
Yeah, so I saw that stuff, and I remember, I think in the episode, there was at least an Easton logo,
yeah,
wearing Easton shorts, but I was like, that's that place that I drive by all the time. So I was like, dude, I'm gonna be Cowboy Cerrone, right? Like, I'm like, I need to at least just check this out. These people seem really cool. And just like asking out a girl, right? Everybody's got a plan till you're getting ready to walk up to her. Dude, that school was intimidating as heck, because I'll just tell you, the most intimidating thing about it was the windows, because it could even be summertime and those things were constantly just like sweat dripping,
steamed over, fogged. Yeah,
Yes.
You couldn't see in it, and you're like, yo, what's going on in there?
Dude, there's people being dead in there, you know? Right. And it was so small that like the pads, like I almost got the courage to go one time, and then I was like, you know what? Before I go in there, I'll just get some Chinese food. And I went into the
Chinese food place right next to it.
I went to the Chinese food place, and I'm like, I'm psyching myself up. I'm like, dude, you can do this. You know, I got my best, like everybody else, right? I have my best gym attire on with like pockets, all the wrong stuff.
Right.
I'm like, you can do this. And as I'm psyching myself up, eating my Chinese lunch special, wham! This thing, and this picture falls off the wall.
In the
this
Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, this lady starts swearing in Korean or Chinese or whatever. I don't know. I don't speak Cantonese. She grabs the picture. She storms out of the restaurant, goes over to the academy and is yelling at them, right? Then comes back, still now mumbling under breath. And hey, it was a person being physically slammed against the wall. Maybe the walls weren't too good, but whatever. I was like,
anyway, you didn't walk in.
No, I was like, this picture falling off the wall. I'm like, there's going to be somebody's head is going to come through the wall next. So I left again. And it took me 3 different times before I finally walked in. Here's the weird thing, just like life and asking out a girl. Guess what happened when I walked in? Welcome. How are you doing? Right. Great. You want to put on some pajamas and try it? You know what I mean? Like, it was chill from that point on. I just had to get what was in my head. I had to get over that and walk through the door.
How did you do that? What's your process of getting, because this is a problem for a lot of us, right? Of getting over what's in our heads, whatever the story, the narrative that we're telling ourselves. And that's what gets in the way of almost everyone's success, right? Is you come up with a story, you tell the story, and then it's truth. And it hasn't even happened anywhere but in between your 2 ears. So what's some of your process for that?
I just didn't want to regret it. Like, I think if I could go back and cheat code my life, I could make different moves. I'd be a lot more successful. I'd have more money. I would have stalked my wife and only married her because she's my person, right? But I realized when I think back to all that stuff, the stuff that hurts the most is not the stuff that I did do and screwed up on. I'm like, that was stupid. Like, for all those businesses that worked, there was ones that just were stupid. Like, I could have gone on a spring break and I spent my money to make XYZ business and it didn't work, right? I don't regret any of those. I regret the stuff I didn't do. So I was like, for me with the jiu-jitsu, I just got mad at myself and I was like, I don't even care if this doesn't work out. I'm not going to have this against me. Like, what if? I'm just going to go try it. Now, if I get in there and I totally hate it, I'm giving myself permission to stop.
At least you know, right? At least you know.
At least I know. And that's the same thing. There's so many people right now that could get a promotion at work. There's so many people that could get a date with the person that they want, but they're just so afraid of, like, what if this goes bad? And what they should be afraid of is, what if I'm 80 years old and this is the one thing I think back? Like, it's okay to fail. Like, and that's another thing that jiu-jitsu has given me. I think jiu-jitsu, at least for me, maybe your percentage is better, but my percentage is probably high mid to high 80s in failure. You know
Oh,
what
it's
I mean?
higher than that. Cause mine's oh, mid to high 80s. Yeah. Because mine's low 80s.
Yeah. So mine's
Yeah, mine's
probably
low
low
80s in
90s.
failure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just like, man, dude, so what? Failure. I wish there was a different word for failure, because I think people are like, oh, that failed. When did you die? No, right? Who cares, right? All the good stuff comes from that. So I finally just got so frustrated. I was like, I'm going to try this, right? And then, like anything, I lean into things. Like I'm more of where I think where I'm different than a lot of people, and most people don't understand this about me. Probably why I don't have a ton of friends, but where I'm different is a lot of people are out there trying to find themselves, and they're trying to bring all of this stuff into their life. And I need to do this, and I got to do this. And like every month they've got something different. I'm more like a curator in like, okay, here's what my picture of my life looks like: wife, kids, jujitsu, cars, business, right? And then I'm constantly trying to figure out what doesn't fit and remove that from my life. Like, so I want to find the things that vibrate at my frequency and just do more of that, right? And do less of all of these other little things. And when I got into jujitsu at first, I was like, I'll be honest, I hated it, right? But I was like, I'm just going to set a goal for myself. And my first goal was like, I'm just going to get through the warm up without feeling like I have to puke, right? And then I tried golf. I still would like to get into golf at some point. I used to play golf by myself, like at this public course. I was like, if I could just if I could just hit one ball correctly, right? And that's all. But and then it was the same thing with jujitsu. I was like, if I could just do one freaking thing right, it's a win, right? And then those wins started to winning beget more winning, right? And I just said, this is a part of me. I'm going to do this, whether I'm hurt or not, whether I have to take a break for a month or not. This has now become a part of me. So until we get a divorce, right, I'm monogamous with this relationship with jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to keep doing it.
You relate it to sales a lot. Like, how do you relate it to sales?
It's basically the exact same thing. Like all of the stuff that I was doing as a kid was just like jiu-jitsu is with fighting. Like, for example, people with sales think if they just use force and effort, that they'll get what they want, right? And you tell me, because you've actually fought at a professional level, if somebody goes into that octagon with just, I'm going to spaz out, and how well is that going to work out for them?
Yeah, it happens to work out for them sometimes, but in the long run, no.
Right. No. Right. So if I try, are you going to buy this? You're going to buy this? Come on, we're going to do this deal. What's up? Right. So like a more skillful way would be, hey, Elliot, does it make sense to get the team on the program? Right. Or, hey, does it make sense to sign up for a membership to the academy? Right. Notice how in those words, when I say, does it make sense to blank? Okay. I'm not asking you to do anything. I did not ask you to do anything. I asked you if it made sense. Okay. Which is really important, because in life, unskillful people, what they do is they do all or nothing requests, right? Do you want to go to the Chinese food place, babe? No. Okay. How about we do Panera bread? No, I don't want Panera. I can't have gluten. Okay. How about the Mexican place, right? You've had this, I'm sure.
Have you, I mean, okay, so let me ask you right there. How do you fucking deal with that with your wife? Because, oh my Lord, that's like one of my biggest frustrations.
I was looking, there's this new Thai food place, babe. It looks like they've got some gluten-free option. Does it make sense for us to check it out? Right? Does it make sense for us to go down there? She's going to be exponentially more likely to do that because it's her reason versus your reason than if you were like, babe, we got to do this. Let's go here. She's almost can't help herself but go, no, I'm not going to go there. Right. And if she goes, no, I don't want to do that. Cool. What are some of your thoughts? Right? What's a good place for us to go? I'm not, the dinner one, I still haven't figured out totally. Let's go off of that one, because I made a belt on that one. But
right.
I don't know if that puzzle can ever be solved, to be honest.
Right. I agree with you.
For married people, I won't say married guys. I'm sure it works both ways, but from what I've seen, for the most part, it's usually guys
difficult.
Like, yeah, we just want to go out to dinner. We just want to pick a place.
I don't care. Don't care.
Wherever you want to go. And she's like, I'll go anywhere you want, just not the last place you suggested.
Not the last 10 places you named.
But anywhere else I'll go. I digress. But if I say to you, does it make sense to get a membership, right? Does it make sense to roll in the academy? I didn't ask you to do anything. And most importantly, and this is what I learned, like at 10 years old, I started learning this. You don't want to relegate your life to an all or nothing request, like a coin flip, meaning yes or no. So if Simon comes up to you and says, hey, Dad, I'm going to the mall with some friends. Can I have 20 bucks? And you say yes. He flipped and it came up heads. He got all, hey, Dad, I'm going to the mall with some friends, right? Can I have 20 bucks? No, he got none of what he wants. When you ask somebody if something makes sense, you've asked them a timing question. So basically saying no to doesn't make sense is not right now, which perfectly positions you for what's a good next step, right? Does it make sense for you guys to get a membership, for you to get a membership? No, I'm not sure. What's a good next step then, right? And then let them answer. This is so much time in sales. We think it's all about us having the right answer, right? I need to come up with some witty way of you're going to get fit. Maybe they don't care about fitness, right? Or you're going to learn how to fight. Maybe they don't care about that. Let them come up with their answers. So what's a good next step then, right? And you're chill, just like in jiu-jitsu, you know, friend, you're just chill, right? And if they're going to move this way, I'm going to move that way, right? And if they say, well, I just don't know, I need to think about it, right? What's a good next step then? I just don't know, I really need to think about it. Perfect, makes perfect sense. What's a good next step on my end? Call me tomorrow. Isn't that amazing? When you just never put pressure on people, you end up getting more of what you want. You'll be like, God, this person's never going to sign up. I'm never going to hear from, what's a good next step? I don't know. It's a big decision. I just need to think about it. Makes total sense. I totally understand, right? It's a different environment. What's a good next step on my end? Is there any way you can call me tomorrow, right? Or the same as jiu-jitsu, like you teach, there's no moves. You just always have a flow. Let's say I say, does it make sense to sign up for the academy? No, not right now. What's a good next step then? I'm not sure. I need to think about it. What's a good next step on my end? I just don't know. No problem. Perfect. I'll follow up with you Friday at 4:30 if we haven't heard from you before then. Fair enough, right? So now I'm going to put, I can create the next step, but I'm giving them every opportunity to do the thing I want them to do.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
When you think, Matt, when you think about like your superpower, right? Like this thing that really like you get to go give to the world. What do you think that is?
I think, and everybody has a different version of success, but I think the people that are like, money is not important, right? Money's not important. I don't think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think those people have ever experienced poverty, okay? If you're a person that's like, man, money's not the most important thing in the world, you have never had to whip out a card to get sloppy joes from the hairy lunch lady and be like so thankful that that was your thing, right? If you're like, man, success and being successful is not important, you really don't care that much about helping other people in the world, because I'll be honest, if you're broke, you're one-to-one. I can only donate so much of my time. I can only work in a soup kitchen so much. But if I have $10,000 I can give, I can create a lot more movement. So I think my superpower is having people that didn't think they could be more skillful and more successful, showing them a way to where they're a lot closer to being able to improve their lives than they think they are. And I think I'm able to show people in a way where they're able to make more sales if they work in sales. They're able to get a promotion. Everything in life is sale, right? So they're able to get more skillful relationships. And what I teach also works in relationships. You know, it's basically like just jujitsu for life. You know, knowing what battles to fight, knowing what battles not to fight. I just did a big thing with Allscripts before we had this podcast, which is one of the largest like medical software companies in the world. And one of the things that we talked about is like 90% of the things, and this is the same ratio in your personal life, that you think are an objection, right? That you need to overcome. I better come up with some witty, clever way to get this girl to go out with me, or to get this medical practice to buy our software, or to get a promotion. 90% of the things that you think are a hard no and objection, they're not, they're just complaints, right? And if you just flow, and I hear you, man, you guys are really expensive. I hear you, I get it, right? It doesn't come back. Like my son does hockey. I'm late all the time. And my wife, he's starting to tie his own skates now, so this will be gone. But one of us have had to tie his skates because doesn't have the strength to pull them tight. And my wife,
that shit's hard, right?
Really hard. And my wife doesn't have the fingernails to really want to be doing that because they get torn up. My fingers are just jacked from jiu-jitsu anyways. So she wants me to tie the skates, right? Every single time I'm always late. And it's 5 minutes late, not that big of a deal. It is a big deal when you need to tie the skates. I don't go, babe, dude, I was on a podcast with Professor. If I'm not getting the word out there, well, hey, we got employees, they're not going to eat. Babe, there's traffic. I don't do any of that, right? You're late. You're right. That's it. You're right. I'm late. It doesn't come back, right? There's no, even, you're meeting somebody in Starbucks. Dude, I was in front of you. Cool. I get it. I hear you. Like people, it's weird, but people have realized like agreement and understanding, we've somehow like welded those two freaking things together. And I think it's the worst thing that's happened to our society, to where like, I can't have a discussion with you right now. I cannot simultaneously understand you and disagree with you, right? We need to learn to like break those two things apart. And if you say something I don't agree with, I can simply say, Elliot, I hear you, right? I understand you. And there's no argument there then, right?
We're just, yeah, it's just, we're, yeah, that's a good point.
There's no fight. You know what I mean? But we're just taught unskillfully in our life to just go through our life. I'm going to swing first and I'm going to swing hard. And if you say some stuff and it doesn't fit with my political agenda or this agenda or my religion, whatever, I'm going to show you how freaking wrong you are. Right. And it's just okay to go, bro, I hear you. Right. And if you want to understand more, help me understand that. Right. Unpack that for me. Right. Yeah. Like, I'd love to know more about that. But we don't do that stuff. Like 90%, I'm telling you, in your business, you've got multiple businesses you're running. And I bet you, if your people, which most likely they're not, because this is like high level, like you have to get on this mental plane. But if your people realize most of the stuff is just a complaint, I bet you the people walking into your office with stuff would reduce like 70, 80% of the time. Somebody comes into your office and it's like, so-and-so did this or that, or that. It's like, they're making—
It's not my office, it's Mike's office they complain to, but yes, you are correct.
Making problems that were never problems, right? Here's the one thing that a real problem and a real objection, if a customer has a real objection, if your wife has a real problem, there's one thing that is a hard truth. She will bring it up with you again, right? You do not have to worry about winning that fight round one. Just say, babe, I get it. I'm with you. And if it is really something that needs to be changed, guess what she'll be? Dude, no, seriously, hon, we've got to talk about—
We have no money. We have no money. We can't eat. It's coming up again. It's not getting solved.
It will come up again.
Right.
So you don't have to fight. You don't have to win every single battle the first time somebody— it's like, I guess in fighting, it's more like a feint.
You don't have to give it back. I got hit. I don't have to give it back right away.
If you
it can come in time.
Yeah, if you're a fighter and you bite on every feint, how's that going to go for you?
Yeah, it's going to get fucked up.
Right. In life, we sit there and we bite on every
feint.
Somebody looks at us the wrong way and we're like, what's up? What's up? Right. No, dude, that was my parking space. Hey, I get it. I'm with you. Cool. Right? Dude, you parked like an asshole. You are absolutely right.
My bad.
Done.
So Matt, tell everyone like where they can find you on Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. If they want to work with you, tell them where they can find you.
EastonUniversity.com is our website. Phone number is 800-628-1456. TikTok, Easton University, and Instagram, Easton University. Just type in Easton University. I am not related to the school in any way, shape, or form. It's not the same thing, but same spelling.
Sounds good. Matt, man, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Guys, as always, look, don't go out in the world and try to be Matt. He has his unique and special power. I have my unique and special power that I have with my life. So don't be Matt. Don't be Elliot. Go out in the world and find your power, everyone.